Wealthy young women in the Antebellum South were encouraged to attend institutions of higher learning for various reasons. Republican motherhood, the idea that women should be challenged intellectually in order to teach their children, was accepted in Southern society. Unlike female seminaries in the northern states at the time, which sometimes prepared female students for work outside of the home, Southern colleges solely promoted the pursuit of marriage and motherhood. Women were taught courses that reflected societal expectations of them. In 1818, Emma Willard sent a manuscript to the government of New York that reflects societal views on women's education at that time. She believed that women should participate in four areas of study: religious, literary, ornamental, and domestic. These studies would prepare a young woman to guide her household and entertain visitors with her talents. In the South, unmarried young women focused on charming potential suitors and choosing the right man to marry. After a wealthy woman was married, the duty of caring for the slaves in the household fell to her. The cult of true womanhood, the view that women guided the moral standards and the affairs of the home, further convinced Southerners of the need for female education. However, the classes women attended were often different than those taken by young men.
Most female institutions of higher learning were loath to call themselves colleges because to suggest that women were enrolled in the same courses of study as men seemed ridiculous. The Georgia Female College, later called the Wesleyan Female College, in Macon was the first to claim the provocative title. Though the academy still clung to the same standards and goals of other institutions, it was the first to award the equivalent of a bachelor's degree. This degree was given to a young woman named Catherine Brewer in 1940. The majority of instructors at the college had master's degrees, and 3 of the teachers were women. The courses of study available at the institution were diverse. Mental and moral philosophy, natural science, music, painting, languages, and mathematics were all taught at the college. The majority of the women that attended the college were daughters of rich slaveholding plantation owners. One woman who graduated from the Wesleyan Female College, Elizabeth Flournoy, asserted her stance as an abolitionist. However, most women who went to the college were committed to the practice of slavery like their families.
In the Southwest, Baylor University was following the example of other female institutions when it came to curriculum with courses that included English, geography, ancient languages, arithmetic, philosophy, piano and guitar for music, modern languages, and painting and embroidery. However, part of the Baylor curriculum was also teaching women to speak in public, even though women were not known to have any opportunity to give speeches at the time. These courses weren't necessarily unheard of because female institutions often incorporated classes on rhetoric to encourage refinement in women. What set Baylor apart was that they gave their students a venue for public speaking, which was referred to as a regular program. During this semi-monthly program, music was played and compositions written by students as well as the school newspaper were read. For the program, women were encouraged to be extroverted and outgoing rather than timid or shy when publicly addressing young men and the trustees of the school.
Similar to the regular program were the end-of-term oral examinations, which were employed by many of the schools in the South. During the examination, the women would have to publicly go before a panel of outside questioners, usually men, and have to essentially perform for them in order to be judged based on their answers. This was a notoriously stressful time for the students, with many parents pulling their children from school before this could happen, due to not wanting to subject their daughters to the stress or to not having much faith in their child's abilities. However, on a lighter note, Baylor University did try to keep the spirits of the students high. One method of doing this was to gather the young women to perform skits and compete with many different characters.
The first question is, what women are we talking about? So if we're talking about women attending college in the antebellum years, by and large, it's not going to be poor women. Often, in most cases, it's not going to be women of color. But the women who do attend these institutions tend to be middle, upper class, and a lot of times the education is informed by what women's expected roles were in antebellum society. And I think both North and South, the expectation was that women would become mothers and helpmeets to their husbands. So they probably took courses in the classics and things like that, but there were also courses that focused on homemaking skills. So, things like how to communicate, things like, how to cook, things that would prepare a woman to be a wife, essentially. But there is some amount of pushback against that kind of training. There are individuals, and I can't think of all the names right now, who thought women needed to receive the kind of education that would develop their critical thinking skills. It's during the antebellum years that you see the founding of institutions like Mount Holyoke, for example, which is still a college today. And if you're talking about women of color, certainly African American women, for example, can't attend places like Mount Holyoke unless they're passing for white, and some of them did, but they can attend places like Oberlin College in Ohio, which was among the first colleges to admit not only women, but African Americans.
Socialization was an important aspect in women's colleges. Southern women were very fond of being home and had very deep emotional attachments to those associated with it, such as parents or siblings. In being separated by long distances while attending college, correspondence with home was very difficult and often unfulfilling. As a result, many women turned toward their immediate peers, such as roommates or classmates, to fill the void left by their separation from home. Students often gravitated toward those with similar life experiences to form sets or cliques, which resulted in the social hierarchy at the various women's colleges mirroring the social hierarchy of Southern society.
The students at women's colleges in the South also began to employ means of socialization that were more academic in nature. Many of the female institutions that offered college-level courses also started literary societies that were modeled to mirror those in place at the male colleges. While their male counterparts were encouraged to prepare compositions for a spirited masculine debate, complete with interruptions, the female literary societies encouraged the students to prepare compositions for what was deemed a structured conversation. A plethora of topics often addressed by the female societies were proposed to instill feminine virtues such as fashion, art, and ladylike behavior. However, occasionally important cultural issues were addressed, including the status of women.
The practices of the female literary societies eventually led to the creation of sororities. The first sorority of the nation was founded at Wesleyan Female College in May of 1851 by Eugenia Tucker and 5 other friends. She founded the Adelphian Society, or Alpha Delta Pi, as it later came to be known. Tucker strove to create a society that focused on mutual improvement of the female members by cultivating them mentally, morally, socially, and domestically. Although the sorority shared the common practice of having the members share compositions with literary societies, they differed in that they were selective in membership. Literary societies were open to all students as a course, but to join a sorority, there was a required vote of membership. Once again, the common themes of inclusion and exclusion were allowed to rear their heads in the social practices at female institutions.
On top of all this, the student body of these colleges were mostly from the planter elite class as well. Pro-slavery sentiment emanated from all aspects of Southern universities. In addition to this, as the dawn of the Civil War came closer and closer, and the anti-Northern as well as the anti-Union sentiments also began to trickle down through the universities. A perfect example of this is the gradual souring of the relationship between Louisiana Barge, a Southern girl who attended Wesleyan College, and her Northern cousin, Cornelia Lunt. Wicked yourself, I reckon you are wicked. I reckon you are black inside. Yes, you all are black inside. I hate you Yankees, you are all common. Louisiana Burge, 1860. The anti-Northern sentiment continued to grow in Georgia until its secession from the Union in early 1861, and would continue through the outbreak of the Civil War later that year. The women of Wesleyan College showed their celebration of Georgia's secession through a candle-lighting ceremony to celebrate this succession.